Part 61. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 606. Early in the morning, Han Qian got up and went out with Wen Nuan. Wen told Han Qian that Paramela should be sent for maintenance and a general inspection. Han Qian waved his hand nonchalantly. When I'm done, I'll go clean it up. The noise in this car has become a bit louder. I'll fix it then. Nuan pulled the Alfa Romeo door and looked at Han Qian, smiling. Don't have the idea of changing your car? This car is of a good brand. I would suggest you change it. It's too girly. Han Qian smiled. Changing to a Raptor. Go away, you see I'm in a good mood, don't you? Don't change to a small car. A Lexus 570 or a Range Rover will do. If you can't bear it, just change to a domineering one. Can consider it? The young couple drove out of the underground garage, and just as they left at the intersection, Ji Jing's phone call came. Nephew, you are dishonest. Ah. As soon as Han Qian uttered a word, the call was hung up. Is Aunt Ji in mood? In fact, Aunt Ji is really in mood. This made Han Qian a little confused. He had to put aside his plan to go to the Yamanman and drove to the company. When he arrived at the company, he went directly to the planning department to find someone. He was told that Minister Ji had asked for leave today. Han Qian was confused again and confused. I found Yang Lan and asked what happened to Ji Jing. Yang Lan was wearing a blue suit today. Han Qian was slightly startled and tilted his head. Sister Yang, you finally wear the same clothes? Yang Lan raised his head and glanced at Han Qian, then stood up and pointed at the hem and collar of his clothes and said seriously. Look. Look. Careful. It's different. Then Yang Lan sat down on the table and sighed. Did you come here to find Jing Jing? She must have asked for leave because she was drunk and had a headache. We had dinner with Teacher Tong and Assistant Yu last night. Teacher Tong cooked and drank a little too much. My head is still there now. Pain. Han Qian closed his eyes and sighed, picked up Yang Ian's water glass, took a glass of water and put it on the table, frowning. Are you drunkards? What do you drink when you don't party during the New Year or the holidays? Yang Lan lay on the table like a child who had made a mistake, dipped a little water in the water glass with her index finger and drew circles on the table, saying weakly. At first, I just wanted to have a meal together, then Jing Jing suddenly wanted to play truth or dare with nursery rhymes. You know Jing Jing and Teacher Tong have never been on good terms, then she drank too much. Han Qian closed his eyes and sighed again, picked up the water glass, poured out the water, took another glass and put it on the table, imitating Yang Ian's tone, and spoke. Then you drank too much, and you were listless. It was a disaster to the water. Bad boy, don't imitate me. After finishing his words, Yang Lan sat up and stretched, yawned, and touched his tears. Ha ha. Don't worry about Jing Jing. I'll call her later and go and do your work. If you want to go out at noon, bring me some porridge, thank you. Han Qian turned around and left. He felt that Yang Ian's initial image of a perfect, gentle, intellectual, and mature big sister was collapsing little by little in his heart. It was like when Han Qian first imagined Nuan in Changxiang. It was perfect, but he didn't realize how wrong he was until he got married and entered the house. What about Yang Lan? Don't dare to think. Don't dare to think. Being afraid of beauty is like a mirror that has been shattered. Even with Yang Ian's reassurance, Han Qian was still a little worried. He called Ji Jing, but he never expected that he was hung up on. Aunt Ji is getting angry. Han Qian was slightly surprised and did not continue to call. He grinned and muttered in a low voice. Have you changed your gender? Ji Jing was having a bad temper, but Han Qian wasn't angry at all, and even said he was a little happy. At least Aunt Ji knew that she was unhappy and acted coquettishly and resisted. Han Qian didn't want Jijing to be submissive all the time. Han Qian just couldn't figure out why he was angry. In the mayor's office at the Yamen gate, Han Qian crossed his legs and drank tea. While drinking, he said with the curled lips that Cheng Jin didn't bring good tea leaves, it was too bitter. Cheng Jin curled his lips and mocked Han Qian, calling it a cow chewing peonies. He didn't understand. And then told Han Qian that Cheng Jin wanted to find someone to quarrel with, but unfortunately it didn't work out. No one will quarrel with you. You just roll around in the Yamen and they pretend they don't see you. You can do whatever you like. Han Qian leaned forward and frowned. Is this the government's way of dealing with me? What's going on with the land in Dongcheng being taken back? Cheng Jin chuckled. That's what Niu Qiudong meant. After all, he is the top leader of the Yamenmen. I know why you came today. Wu Qingxi is planning to film a TV series, right? I listened to the call between you and Feng Lun. He thinks he has not made any mistakes. You can't discredit him, and you can't praise the Yamenmen. Well, let me tell you, please don't scold me. I feel that Feng Lun is half and half. Dad has no way to redress his grievances. He calls the sky and the sky to respond, and the earth are not working. He can only take the extreme route. This who is to blame? It's still the fault of improper handling at the Yamen gate, otherwise this matter wouldn't have happened. If you want to smear someone's family, why are you smearing it? You don't care about movies, you don't care about tourism development, what do you care about? Eat enough, not hungry. Cheng Jin smiled lightly. What do you want me to do? You settled the movie matter for me. I asked Wu Qingxi to film the movie in Binhai to promote it for you. Everything should be filmed according to what really happened. Can you take care of it? Let Wu Qingxi prepare the script, bring it to me and show it to me first, and then review it. The prerequisite is that it will be filmed in Binhai City. Can you make the decision? Niu Qiudong won't deal with you. Him. He is the secretary, and I am also the secretary, but there is only one word difference. Why should I be afraid of him? He is currently focusing on the development of the back mountain of Yezai Pavilion, so I will help him reduce some of his burden. Also, let me ask you one thing, what's going on between you and that Luo Shen? Old man, I have something to do and I have to leave first. Han Qian got up and ran away from the Yamen gate. He didn't expect Cheng Jin to be such a gossip. At the same time, he also knew that the matter with Luo Shen had been spread. Wanghai Seaview Villa, Lin Zongheng took the photo in his hand and threw it angrily on the table in front of Luo Shen. His eyes were blood red, veins popped out on his forehead, and he roared in a low voice. What's going on with these photos? What's going on with you and Han Qian? Luo Shen looked at the photos secretly taken on the coffee table, frowned slightly, raised his head and looked at Lin Zongheng, questioning. You sent someone to follow me? Lin Zongheng glared at Luo Shen and roared. I just went out for a humming day and you went to find a wild man? Are you lonely and looking for a man? I don't care about you. We have no love in the first place, but you went to find Han Qian? I've lost all my face by you. You give me a reasonable explanation. You sent someone to follow me? Lin Zongheng, are you following me? Have you suspected that I would betray you from the beginning? Oh, it was in vain that I chose to break up with Han Qian when you were injured. It turns out that you didn't trust me from the beginning. I'll ask you now, how did you and Han Qian get together? First answer why you sent people to follow me. How have I, the goddess of Luo, been sorry to your Lin family? For your Lin family, I received 2 slaps in the face. For your Lin family, my brother's head was opened. For your Lin family, I was lost in the circles of the capital. Face, and what did you get? You sent someone to follow me? Yes. You are right, Han Qian and I were good, I slept with him, and then what? Regret the engagement? I don't care. Lin Zongheng suddenly became discouraged, closed his eyes and sighed, sitting on the sofa, unable to speak. Yes. My Lin family does owe you, but if you do this now, where do you want my face to go? What will people outside say about me? Speaking of you, they can only say that I, Luo Shen, am indiscreet. Can you defeat Han Qian now? Can you catch him? Lin Zongheng, face is not lost, it is earned by oneself. I think we should separate. After a while, I'll go back to the capital, and that's it. After saying that, Luo Shen stood up, picked up the car keys and left the villa, leaving Lin Zongheng with a livid face. Not long after Luo Shen left, Lin Men came down from upstairs. He looked at his son sitting decadently on the sofa, with dissatisfaction on his face. Frowning. She can do whatever she wants. The Luo family will soon enter Binhai City. What will you do if you have a quarrel with her now? Lin Zongheng raised his head and looked at his father, frowning. Can't I even ask about this matter? She still looks like she has been wronged. Dad, I hate that Han Qian was hit by a car and died when he went out. She just went to hook up with Han Qian. There was a warm person in front of her. Now there is another Luo Shen. Dad, I can't stand it. Lin Men frowned and scolded. What can you do if you can't bear it? As for Han Qian, he can make trouble as much as he likes. As a grasshopper after autumn, when Feng Lun is caught, the Yamanman will be the first to let him go. If you have time to compete with him, think about how to get the board of directors to put the warmth out. Lin Zongheng opened his mouth, and then sat weakly on the sofa. How could he swallow this breath? After Luo Shen left the villa, she called Han Qian and told Han Qian that Lin Zongheng was getting anxious now. She would go back to the capital to hide out for a few days. In the past few days, she would send people to keep an eye on Lin Zongheng's every move. If there was any news, she would be informed as soon as possible. Tell Han Qian. After hanging up the phone, Han Qian frowned. What does this woman want to do? Not long after, Lin Zongheng called. Han Qian, you are very playful. The person I, Lin Zongheng, like is more beautiful than other women? What do you mean? Han Qian drove to the porridge shop and said calmly. I don't mean anything. She took the initiative to come and blame me. I can only blame you for not being able to live well in bed. Let's find a place to talk. The two of us are destined to be together. The two women I like are related to you. Blame me. Looking for a place to talk. Let's go in the afternoon. I'm going to buy porridge now. I'll let you know when I'm done. It seems that this guy will not give up unless he meets Lin Zongheng. After hanging up the phone, Han Qian went to the porridge shop to buy porridge for Yang Lan, thinking about what important news this guy could tell when he met Lin Zongheng in the afternoon. Or put forward some conditions. Han Qian could probably guess that this guy still wanted to get him to cooperate. He had to admit that Lin Zongheng, this bastard, had a good self-cultivation. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 607. I bought porridge for Yang Lan and took it back to the company. When I went upstairs, I met little Yang Jia. This little girl heard that it was for her sister and insisted on opening it to taste. Han Qian didn't agree and took Han Qian's arm to act coquettishly. It didn't have much effect. He was dragged into the general department by Han Qian all the way, and then he became honest. Yang Lan told Han Qian that Jing had finished her work recently and was a little tired. She also had a headache due to drinking too much. She could just stay at home for a day and don't have to worry. Then she clicked on little Yang Jia's forehead and cursed angrily. Get out. Little Yang Jia obediently turned around and ran away. Yang Ian's intimidation was still very effective on her. Han Qian was not in a hurry to go out. He sat opposite Yang Lan and watched the intellectual beauty sipping the porridge in small sips. Then he noticed that Yang Ian's face was a little, turning red. Han Qian tilted his head and said doubtfully, "Sister Yang, why are you blushing?" Yang Lan raised his head and glared at Han Qian, gritting his teeth. "Do you blush when others see you eating?" "No. Just watch it, my dear. Has your grandson Tang Wei caused any trouble for you recently?" Yang Lan sipped the porridge and shook his head. "I haven't seen him in the company recently. I don't know where he is hiding. Let's just pretend we don't know him. Have you eaten?" "I can't eat 2 bowls. Why is the porridge you bought so small?" "In terms of bowls, we buy them in plastic boxes." Han Qian chuckled. "People think I'm handsome. Go, go, don't watch me eat here. I know you have something to do, and you can't sit still, right? I'm with Jing over there. I promise there won't be a fire in your backyard." "There's no backyard. It's up to you." After saying this, he felt a lot more at ease in his heart. He stood up and walked out of the office. As soon as he left the office, Han Qian felt something was wrong. No fire in the backyard? Why did Yang Lan suddenly say this? Then Han Qian suddenly shuddered. Truth or dare? Play with nursery rhymes. Jing lost her temper. Oh my god. Han Qian didn't dare to think about it anymore. He felt that his little heart couldn't bear such a blow, and he would have to scold Lin Zong. When he asked Lin Zongheng to meet in the 8th district, this bastard refused to go and used various excuses, fearing that Han Qian would kill him if he stayed in the 8th district. This guy has a long memory. He was in danger once in the mountains and cherished his life. Just when Han Qian was about to lose interest, he finally made up his mind. Go to Yashai Pavilion and have lunch. After hanging up the phone, Han Qian curled his lips and cursed the bastard in a low voice. He went downstairs and drove to Yezai Pavilion. He couldn't figure out what was planning in this bastard's head. When he returned home, he wanted to tear Han Qiansheng apart. Now he was taken away. He cuckolds like a normal person. Is his heart already twisted? I glanced at Lu Shenge's car in the distance and thought to myself, isn't this guy twisted yet? After getting in the car, he accidentally called Jing, and the call was quickly connected. Aunt Ji's soft voice came over the phone, as if she had been woken up by Han Qian while sleeping. Wei nephew, what are you doing? It's okay. I heard that you drank too much and are feeling very uncomfortable now. Can I take you to dinner? No, I didn't drink too much. I'm not feeling uncomfortable. I'm not happy. Listening to the voice on the phone, Han Qian smiled. Whoever made you unhappy, tell me and I will break his legs. The third one? Then interrupt yourself. I don't want to talk to you. I'm going to sleep. He said he didn't want to answer the phone, but he really couldn't bear to hang up the phone. Han Qian drove the car and smiled bitterly. Can you wait until I'm done and come to apologize? Look at your performance. Now I am not sure why Aunt Ji is unhappy, but it is certain that it has something to do with him. With Aunt Ji's character, she will not argue with Han Qian about small things. This also confirms Han Qian's biggest worry. There might have been an accident. I arrived at Yashai Pavilion with a little worry in my heart. When I walked into the courtyard, Rottweiler rushed towards Han Qian. The little fat man who weighed more than 100 kilograms was held in Han Qian's arms, with 2 big paws on his shoulders. Ji heard the dog barking and came out, frowning. Mr. Han, can you go through the main entrance next time? Han Qian put down the Rottweiler, opened the dog's mouth, took a look at the broken canine teeth, and smiled. When you bring these 2 dogs here from now on, either put them in the hunting park or keep them on a leash. Yates nodded slightly, narrowed his eyes and smiled. Then could you please help Mr. Han? Easy to do. Han Qian grabbed the collars of the two dogs and sent them to the hunting park. The procedures for the hunting park have not been completed yet. Normal business will have to wait for a few days. Let the two dogs have fun inside first. After letting the dogs go, Han Qian, when we came to the lobby, it was not yet afternoon, and most of the customers in the lobby were already seated. Choosing a seat by the window, Han Qian asked the kitchen to make him fried rice. Not long after, Yates came over with fried rice. Han Qian said softly, "Did you fry it? You're getting me a clove of garlic." Yates took a new head of garlic from the bar and put it on Han Qian's table and said softly, "The kitchen is busy, so you just have to eat. I'm a good cook. You are quite versatile. Is someone who can't cook considered a woman? Don't say this in front of Nuan and the others, you'll get beaten easily." While he was talking, Lin Zongheng arrived, and the black Mercedes-Benz sports car parked arrogantly outside the hotel. Han Qian frowned and said softly, "Go and tell bastard Lin to park the car. If he doesn't listen, Su Hongchang will smash his car." Yates gently comforted him. "Don't be so aggressive. Lin's nickname has spread throughout the city. It will be good for us if he stops here." Han Qian raised his head and frowned. "When did you become so disobedient? I'll give you some face today for the sake of fried rice." Yates smiled. At this moment, Lin Zongheng had already walked into the main entrance of the hotel. There were no corridor screens in Yezai Pavilion. You could see the lobby from the entrance. He found Han Qian at a glance. With a gloomy face, he walked forward and sat down. Pointing at the fried rice in front of Han Qian, he frowned. "You're going to have this for lunch." Han Qian shrugged and said calmly, "I'm not picky about food. If you want to try it, I can ask Yates to fry a portion for you." Lin Zongheng raised his hand and said quickly, "No, I can't trust the people around Lushenga." After saying this, Yates frowned, then left with a smile, ignoring Lin Zongheng. But not long after, Lin Zongheng became a little hungry when he saw Han Qian eating delicious food. He asked the waiter for fried rice, but was told that Ye Zongheng there was no fried rice on the menu, and Lin Zongheng was not angry. He took out his wallet and took out 2 bills. The waiter glanced at Han Qian, who nodded lightly, and the waiter took the money and left. After the person left, Lin Zongheng leaned forward and whispered, "Mad dog, what are you going to do? Don't tell me that you are also concerned about the Luo family. The Luo family's Luo Fu is indeed useless, but if you want to coax Luo Shen to back you up, I will never stand idly by." Han Qian raised his head and glanced at Lin Zongheng. He couldn't help laughing when he lowered his head to eat. He took a tissue and wiped his mouth, smiling. "Are you hypocritical? We are all in the same circle, so don't hide it." Luo Shen cuckolded at you. You are not angry or anxious. Instead, you sit here with me, the man who hooked up with your fiancée, to express your feelings. Bright Justice, are you strong? You and your father want to marry with the Luo family, just like your father fooled your mother. Aren't you just afraid that Luo Shen will suddenly have a quarrel with you and stand with me? Let's be honest." Lin Zongheng frowned and took out a cigarette and was about to light it. Yates came over and put the no smoking sign on the table. Then Han Qian took out the cigarette and lit it. Yates glared at Han Qian angrily, but he didn't stop. Lin Da bastard had a really good temper. He took out his wallet again and took out the bills one by one and put them on the table. Then he lit a cigarette and looked at Han Qian, frowning. "What did Luo Shen say to you? Why should I tell you? Have you forgotten that you asked Guan Yun Biao to buy my leg for 400,000 yuan? Lin, you bastard, let me ask you a question, who hired Go Depeo and who introduced him?" After saying that, Han Qian leaned back and tilted the chair, shaking slightly with the support of the back legs of the chair. Today Han Qian also wore an expensive suit prepared by Yan Qingqing. The suit was serious, but the underneath was not a shirt, but a vest. Matching this guy's short hair, smoking movements, and a proper thug in a suit. Compared to Han Qian, Lin Zongheng, who was sitting opposite, looked much more of a gentleman. Although he was not wearing a tie, Lin Zongheng's dress, behavior, and hairstyle showed that this guy was a successful member of the upper class. Moreover, his action of taking out money just now had unknowingly attracted the attention of many women. Women love to be chic and men love to be beautiful. Common sense. Lin Zongheng remained silent, and the fried rice was delivered at this time. Lin Zongheng unbuttoned his suit, picked up the chopsticks and whispered. Wei Tiancheng knew Go De Peo and introduced him to Luo Shen. Han Qian squinted at Lin Zongheng and said calmly. Believe it or not, I used chopsticks to pierce a hole in the back of your hand. After finishing his words, Han Qian reached out to touch the chopsticks on the table. At this moment, Yates walked behind Han Qian and held down Han Qian's shoulders. Twice. Han Qian turned his head and glared at Yates, who had no expression on his face. Lin Zongheng curled his lips and said. Look, you can't trust Lu Shenge's people, right? Believe it or not, I am not your person. Lin Zongheng, don't think that I am a fool like Lu Shenge. I believe everything I say. Go De Peo and Luo Shen appeared on the same night. I have never seen them before. Oh, what reason does Luo Shen have to kill me? Lin Zongheng raised his head and glanced at Han Qian, then said. Luo Shen wants to replace you in your current position. Mad dog, you don't know how many people are jealous of your current position? Let me tell you straightforwardly, it's not the one from the Li family that I'm afraid of, let alone Wen Shu, Qian Ling. As for Tu Xiao, in my eyes, he is just a common man. If you are afraid, I will not spend 400,000 yuan to buy your legs, or make a big show of it. You know who I am afraid of. Han Qian shook off his hands on his shoulders, picked up a clove of garlic and threw it to Lin Zongheng, smiling. Oh, don't you want to sit in my position? Lin Zongheng shook his head. I don't want to, I can't sit still. That doesn't mean your father doesn't want to. Isn't it too effeminate for you two to blame the matter on a woman? With our current relationship, what can I do to you even if you admit it? What are you doing now? What do you mean, this cuckold has confessed? How about you show some sincerity and we can swallow up the Luo family first? Lin Zongheng looked at the garlic in his hand, raised his head after being silent for a long time and asked. Can this thing be eaten raw? You, I'm talking to you about business. The swearing was so loud that the customers in the lobby turned their heads to look this way. Han Qian smiled apologetically at the customers, then looked at Lin Zongheng and said again. You came to me today just to eat a piece of fried rice. Lin Zongheng put down the garlic and grinned. If Luo Shen suddenly no longer exists in this world, how about you and I, together with eunuch Lu, swallow up the Luo family? Han Qian's heart suddenly stopped for a moment, he suppressed the shock in his heart, tried his best to stay calm, and said calmly. I have no objection. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 608. This was definitely not Lin Zongheng's sudden idea. He had been wanting to ask Han Qian out for a talk a long time ago. Lin Zongheng left Yashai Pavilion after dinner, and Han Qian was still not calm. Standing up with slightly trembling hands, Yates hurriedly helped Han Qian. She didn't know what was wrong with Han Qian. She thought it was a physical problem and hurriedly asked if she wanted to go to the hospital. Han Qian raised his head and looked at Yates with confusion in his eyes. Yates held Han Qian's arm and whispered. I didn't let you take action just now because Lin Zongheng's bodyguard is here, and you will definitely suffer if we fight. Han Qian ignored Yates's words and asked in a low voice. I can't accept it for a while. Miss Ye, please give me a glass of water. Go to the backyard and say it. After arriving in the backyard, Han Qian still couldn't calm down. Luo Shen did say that he didn't like Lin Zongheng and did some things that damaged Lin Zongheng's reputation. But her body still belonged to Lin Zongheng. After sharing the same bed for so long, Luo Shen, in order to help Lin Zongheng, he almost stayed in Binhai City. Is he going to kill Luo Shen? Han Qian thought he couldn't do such a thing, and he definitely couldn't. He didn't even want the girl around him to get hurt at all. Are interests and money so important? Money has an upper limit. Once you have a certain amount, money becomes a number. At that time, the things you want cannot be bought by money. This has gone beyond Han Qian's views on this matter. He has never thought of killing Lin Zongheng and Lu Shenga. Yates came back with warm water and said softly. Mr. Han, you must be scared. Han Qian raised his head, then nodded vigorously and said confusedly. If the two of them get married, the Luo family and the Lin family will become one family. Why do they want to devour each other? I don't want to get involved in this. I can accept the vendetta. This kind of, Yates sat next to Han Qian and said softly. Mr. Han, why are you so kind again? Have you kept all your cruelty to yourself? I heard Lu Shenga say before that he said that he was an alien and could believe in love. I didn't understand it at first, but later I came into contact with him. After more people, I realized that love may not exist between two people who get married. Luo Shen did not want to marry Lin Zongheng. She wanted to build her own Luo family, and Lin Zongheng would not be willing to make green leaves for her. What he did marriage is not about joining forces, but more about getting each other's family property. Han Qian shook his head and whispered. I don't understand. Yates smiled softly at Han Qian, stretched out his arms and put his arms around Han Qian's shoulders, letting Han Qian lie on her lap, leaning forward slightly and looking down at Han Qian, and said softly. Mr. Han. You are so stupid. Lin Zongheng didn't want to marry Luo Shen, and Luo Shen didn't want to marry Lin Zongheng. The two of them were helpless to get together, and they calculated and schemed just for money. Kill Luo Shen, there is no need to marry this woman. The remaining Luo Fu is useless. It is enough to deal with the old men of the Luo family, Lin Zongheng, Mr. Han, and eunuch Lu. When the time comes, the Luo family will be defeated, and then it will be you who are in charge. Massacre, do you understand this time? Han Qian closed his eyes and sighed. Hey, I understand what you are saying, but I don't understand why he was able to do it. Yates smiled softly. People are different. Some people think that only their own lives are valuable, while others think that their lives are worthless. Mr. Han belongs to the latter. Okay, don't worry about it anymore. The death or survival of Luo Shen has nothing to do with you. Yeji reached out and pinched Han Qian's cheek before he finished speaking, and smiled. Maybe he was just talking. Don't think so much. How about I call them two to come out and play with you? Han Qian shook his head gently, sat up and looked straight at Yates, saying seriously. I can't see your face lying on your lap. Yates was stunned for a moment. When she came to her senses, Han Qian had already run away. Miss Ye stood there and cursed Mr. Han as a gangster. Han Qian got in the car and ran away. He didn't want to infect his negative emotions to others. The car was parked downstairs in Ji Jing's newly bought house. Han Qian rubbed his face and tried not to think about Lin Zongheng. He won't get involved in this matter. He doesn't care who Lin Zongheng kills, but if he did it in front of him, he might go to save this person. Making Lin Zongheng strong was undoubtedly asking for his own death. If nothing else goes wrong, Lin Zongheng has already met with Lu Shenga and talked about this matter. Will Lu Shenga, an eunuch who has killed people before, refuse? Whenever Han Qian was unhappy, he would come to Ji Jing for comfort, but he didn't know if it would be effective today. Adhering to the concept that death sooner or later will always be the same, Han Qian got out of the car, took a deep breath and walked into the community. As soon as he entered the door, he was stopped by the security guard for interrogation. He finally let him in after making sure he knew the owner of the community. The security of the community is not very good. With scattered memories, Han Qian climbed up the stairs to the 9th floor. He was panting and just about to knock on the door. The door was already opened. Aunt Ji was standing at the door in her pajamas with her hair loose. Her face told Han Qian that she was very unhappy. Happy? Han Qian grinned. How did you know I was coming? Aunt Ji bent down and took out her slippers, whispering that she was guessing. Han Qian walked into the living room with a smile. The house was not big, with an area of 80 or 90 square meters. It was decorated in a modern black and white and gray style. It looked neat and tidy. The living room was very clean. On the sofa lies the big rabbit that Han Qian gave to Ji Jing. Sitting on the sofa and looking at the small bench in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, Han Qian smiled. He knew how Ji Jing knew he was coming, so he smiled bitterly. If I don't come today, will you just sit there all day? Your house hasn't been renovated for a long time, right? Is it okay to move in? Ji Jing looked at Han Qian with her mouth bulging, as if she had decided not to talk to Han Qian, but in the end she couldn't hold it back and whispered back like a deflated rubber ball. When I bought it, it was a fully decorated room. Why are you here? I'll come over here for a drink of water. Ji Jing puffed up her cheeks again. Her cute look made Han Qian feel much better, and he leaned on the sofa and smiled. My Aunt Ji is unhappy. How can I bear not to come see you? Are you really not going to give me water? There is no water, go find nursery rhyme to drink water. Hello you two. After finishing her words, Ji Jing stood up and let out an irritated ouch, walked to the edge of the sofa, took Han Qian's arm and pulled him out of the door. Ouch. Go find your nursery rhymes. Han Qian stood up with a smile and walked towards the door. In Ji Jing's blink of an eye, this guy turned around and ran into the second bedroom. He held his chin and looked at the decoration of the second bedroom. This floor bed was only about 20 centimeters long. A step ladder, about 10 centimeters, and black and white bedding. On the left side of the bed is a thin bookshelf. Basic history books are placed on the first floor. In a nearby grid, cigarettes are neatly placed. There are many types. An exquisite ashtray hangs under the bookshelf. Just lie on the bed and reach out to flick the cigarette ashes. The second floor is filled with business books, stocks, etc., and the third floor is filled with game consoles and equipment. There is a tempered glass corner desk on the side near the window. There are 2 computers on it, a curved desktop computer and a small white notebook. Behind the desk is a glass cabinet. The things inside it caught Han Qian's attention. Various handmade models, battleships, tank models, probably combat equipment used during World War II. Han Qian stepped forward to verify whether the table was made of tempered glass. He knocked twice, and the curtains hidden in the dark on both sides of the window suddenly fell automatically. The room was dark for an instant, and the next second the floor was covered with floor coverings. The light strips were lit one by one. The spotlight in the glass cabinet followed closely. Under the light, the figures inside became more gorgeous. The computer with a curved screen started automatically, and the sound sounded after it was turned on. Grandnephew, welcome home. It was Ji Jing's voice, with unbearable joy hidden in her voice. Han Qian was moved, slowly turned around and looked at Aunt Ji standing at the door, and said with a silly smile. My room? Prepared for me. Is there any man who wouldn't like a room like this? Ji Jing said quietly. I have some great nephews. After saying this, Han Qian stepped forward, picked up Jijing and kissed her pretty face hard. Then he put Jijing down and turned around and ran to the computer desk. He knocked on the table again. The rooms were closed one by one and the curtains were closed. Be opened. Magic. This is simply amazing for Han Qian. At the same time, he also knew that nothing worth 70,000 to 80,000 yuan would be able to fit into this room. But Aunt Ji is still unhappy. Have you seen enough? If you've seen enough, you can go. I'm going to sleep. Han Qian smiled innocently. I can't see enough. I can't see enough in my life. It's really prepared for me. No one has ever prepared these things for me. Aunt Ji, how do you know I like this kind of bed? How do you know I like these warship figures? Ah. Desktop computer, can I play games in the future? Excited Han Qian didn't know where to start. Since childhood, no one has prepared surprises for Han Qian. The old man and his mother think that it is good to have enough food and clothing. Wen Nuan will not think of this, and neither will Yan Qingqing, because they don't know what Han Qian likes now. However, Han Qian knew that he could no longer be obsessed with this room now, because Jijing had already returned to the living room. Han Qian got up and walked out of the living room, came to the window, and gently hugged the person who had belonged to him a long time ago behind Jijing. The woman said softly, I know you are angry, and I also know why, but that time it was out of necessity, and I was drugged. Jijing lowered her head and looked out the window and whispered. I know. I know you had no choice. I know you only found the nursery rhyme number at that time, but you have to know, eldest nephew, that I can give it to you at any time, not when you are drugged. It's okay anytime. After finishing her words, Jijing turned around and held Han Qian's face, looking at her beloved man with eyes full of love, and said softly. I can't accept anyone touching me, but you can. I won't be disgusted or afraid. I like you and I love you. I have been your woman for a long time. What are you hesitating about? What are you struggling with? Will you understand it only after I can no longer hold on and leave? My nephew, you are a man who is upright and upright. Please don't let me go forward when there are some things, okay? Save the last trace for me. Dignity, Han Qian. My favorite man. Han Qian smiled and said softly. I know, I understand, and I love you too. As soon as he finished speaking, Han Qian picked up Jijing and walked to the bedroom built for him. He closed the door with his foot and lightly knocked on the table. The room was dark, and everything that should have happened long ago has been waiting until today. Two people who love each other deeply have no worries or worries, their eyes meet each other, and what follows is a flood of love. Jijing hugged Han Qian's neck tightly and cried. I love you. I love you. I love you forever and ever. I dare not describe the details. Where are the recommended tickets and monthly tickets? Remember to click on the paragraph comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 609. Han Qian was awake. The first 2 times he was in a chaotic state, with his body controlling his brain. To be precise, this was Han Qian's first time. He looked at Jijing, who was breathing with her eyes closed, holding her beautiful face, gently pressing her lips to her forehead, and holding the woman tightly in his arms. A man's desire comes and goes quickly, but a woman's passion fades slowly. At this time, she needs a man's company and hug. Han Qian didn't know how he knew this knowledge in his head. Jijing opened her eyes and wiped the sweat from Han Qian's forehead and said softly. Are you hungry? Han Qian shook his head and hugged the woman in his arms tighter. This time, Han Qian didn't feel irritated afterwards, nor did he have any worries. He just did it. The word regret rarely appeared in his mind. Han Qian didn't regret it. Just like what Jijing said, she had already done it. Already his. Looking down at the woman in his arms, Han Qian smiled. If I get pregnant, how about we go get the certificate? That sounds like a bit of a scumbag. Ji Jing put her weak, boneless hands on Han Qian's chest, narrowed her eyes and said softly. I know you. I prefer to hear the unpalatable truth rather than high-sounding lies. There are many girls around you, and I don't want to compete with them. Han Qian pinched Ji Jing's cheek and smiled. You must be a good wife and mother, do you really not feel any pain? Ji Jing's face turned red, she lightly punched Han Qian's chest and said shyly. Can you please stop asking me all the questions? How can I not feel pain? You get some sleep and I'll cook for you. Han Qian got out of bed, Ji Jing lazily shrank into the quilt and whispered. There are clothes in the cloakroom. Ji Jing has prepared everything Han Qian needs in this house. As long as Han Qian can't think of it, there is nothing Ji Jing has not prepared. After taking a bath and changing clothes, Ji Jing's home is the girl Han Qian has seen so far. The cleanest one among them, the home of nursery rhyme is not bad, but there is a thing called Yushasai in the house that is harmful to people. While busy in the kitchen, Ji Jing tiptoed to the door of the kitchen wearing a loose nightgown, lying on the door frame and looking at Han Qian who was busy in the kitchen, maybe a woman, maybe a man. They all love watching their loved ones cooking for them. Han Qian turned his head and smiled at Ji Jing. It doesn't hurt anymore. Ji Jing wrinkled her little nose and whispered. It hurts. Then put it back on and lie down. I'll feed you later. Eldest nephew, I want to eat something spicy. Sour girl? Okay, I'll go downstairs to buy chili. There is a key in the shoe cabinet for you. Just take it. I really need to take a nap. You are too. Before Ji Jing finished speaking, she shyly turned back to the bedroom. For dinner, Han Qian sat by the bed and fed Ji Jing spoonful by spoonful. Ji Jing wanted to eat by herself several times, but Han Qian refused. Aunt Ji looked at Han Qian dumbfounded. Eldest nephew, I just transformed from a girl into a woman, and I'm not in confinement. You don't have to be so cautious. I want to feed you, okay? You feed nursery rhymes like this too. When this question was raised, Han Qian did not avoid it like before. He put down the spoon, pinched Ji Jing's cheek, and smiled softly. Want to know? Ji Jing shook her head and opened her mouth. Han Qian smiled and fed him a spoonful of hot food and said softly. That time I went to Wei Tianquan's house. Wei Tianquan and his concubine secretly drugged me. They originally planned for me to have sex with Wei Tianquan's daughter. After I escaped, I was already unconscious. At first, I wanted Tong Yao to come and take me back, but, I couldn't control it. Han Qian chose to lie. In fact, he didn't want to deceive Ji Jing, but Han Qian could never say that the first time he met Tanjeo was because he was drugged by Tanjeo. In the final analysis, all the mistakes were his, letting a girl, even if the nursery rhyme made Han Qian very angry, Han Qian still didn't want nursery rhyme to be said to be a scheming woman. The responsibility is his, he is a man, and his fault is also his. Ji Jing narrowed her eyes and said softly. Eldest nephew, I want to eat meat. Okay, eat meat, eat meat. Ji Jing didn't continue to ask, and she didn't want to ask anymore. When she was with Han Qian, she didn't think about anything that made him unhappy. When it got dark, Han Qian and Ji Jing were lying on the bed and watching TV. Han Qian didn't pay attention to what was playing on TV, and hid under the quilt and played with Ji Jing. The principle of feeling full and warm and thinking seems to be true. Just when they were playing around and could no longer hold it any longer, Ji Jing's cell phone rang. Ji Jing patted Han Qian's paw and whispered. Stop it. Ji Jing took the phone and pressed the answer button, laughing softly. Lan Lan, have you got off work? Oh. Huh. Are you downstairs? Oh, Oh, I haven't gotten up yet. I'm going to get dressed. After hanging up the phone, Ji Jing raised her leg and kicked Han Qian's butt, saying urgently, Yang Lan and Ching Ching are here. They are downstairs. Hurry up and get dressed and go downstairs. Han Qian got out of bed and put on his clothes and said seriously, Yes, yes, I have to go downstairs to pick them up. Ji Jing got out of bed, her movements seemed a bit too big, she frowned and let out an ouch, then walked towards Han Qian and pushed his back towards the door. Why did you pick them up? If Ching Ching knew what happened between us, she would definitely make trouble with you. Your car didn't stop in a conspicuous place, right? Oops. My nephew, be obedient. Han Qian frowned and asked in confusion. Why am I hiding from her? Ji Jing stood up on tiptoes and kissed Han Qian's lips, saying softly, Be good and be obedient. Ching Ching and I are best friends. We understand some things tacitly, but we can't say it openly. Be obedient and be good. I'll make dumplings for you tomorrow. After being kicked out by Aunt Ji, Han Qian was wearing clothes while walking. Why did he feel like he was being eaten clean and wiped his mouth before leaving? As soon as Han Qian walked down the stairs, he heard Yan Ching Ching and Yang Lan standing outside the door calling Ji Jing. It was just a few seconds before he was stuck at Ji Jing's house. Han Qian didn't think about his fear until he got downstairs. He was not afraid of others, but of Yan Ching Ching. Fortunately, the car was parked in an inconspicuous place. Han Qian got in the car and drove home. The warmth today was also very strange. In the past, he would call or send text messages every day when he didn't go home after dark. A sound. Why is there no movement at all today? When he got home and opened the door, Han Qian realized why. Nursery rhymes and poetry came. 3 women were sitting on the sofa in their pajamas, chatting and not knowing what to talk about. Anyway, they were very excited. When Nuan looked up at Han Qian, pointed to the kitchen and whispered softly, Road. There is food inside, you can heat it yourself. He changed his shoes and sat on the single sofa, smiling lightly. We've eaten outside, what are you talking about and why is it so lively? The appearance of Han Qian made the originally enthusiastic nursery rhyme suddenly shut up. She lowered her head and looked at her feet that were whiter than ordinary people in a daze. Seeing this, Wen Nuan urged Han Qian to take a bath and then go upstairs to play by himself. The topic of women is getting mixed up. Han Qian raised his hand and smiled bitterly. Okay, you guys chat, I'll take a shower and go to bed first. After finishing speaking, he went upstairs. As soon as he got upstairs, he heard Yu Shixi asking about Han Qian and Luo Shen. He didn't hear a warm answer, but just heard a nursery rhyme and snorted coldly. Han Qian didn't think so much and took a shower in the bathroom on the 2nd floor. After taking a shower, I went back to the room and looked at my phone for a while. I originally planned to look at it for a while and then go downstairs to have something to eat. But as soon as his head hit the head of the station, he felt sleepy like an army pressing down on the situation. Within 10 minutes, the city was lost and Han Qian fell asleep. In the middle of the night, someone got into the bed and Han Qian shouted softly. Xiao Nuan. Yeah. Go to sleep. He slept until 8 o'clock in the morning, 11 hours later. When Han Qian got up, he felt that his head was not working properly. He glanced at the time and frowned slightly. Why did he sleep for so long? I didn't do much physical work yesterday. Han Qian's thoughts were cut off by Han Qian, and he couldn't continue to think about it. Then Han Qian was a little curious again. The warmth last night was a bit honest. He didn't snatch the quilt or kick anyone. He got up and walked downstairs to find that several girls had gone to work. Han Qian was too lazy to make breakfast alone, so he changed his clothes and went out. After going to work, I drove out of the underground garage and realized it was raining. The light rain fell and Han Qian smiled. He liked rainy days very much. When he arrived at the company, it was still half an hour before work. Han Qian stood on the steps of the main entrance and looked at the square washed by the rain. He took out a cigarette and was about to light it, but the cigarette in his mouth was taken away. Han Qian smiled and took out another one and said with a smile, "Why did you come so early today?" Su Liang smiled. Li Li was in a bad mood in the morning. I was worried that she would quarrel with me, so I took a taxi to the company first. I found that you come early a few days every month. I went upstairs, and you just watch the rain here. I don't like rainy days. Smoking and going up. I didn't light up the cigarette. Every family has its cupboard. I didn't inquire about the details. Talking too much about the affairs between husband and wife would have a negative impact. There were more and more people going to work. Everyone he knew or didn't know said hello to Han Qian. Han Qian responded with a smile, not looking like a bully from the general department. At 9 o'clock, Han Qian saw Ji Jing open the door. He opened the car door and stepped out of the car with an umbrella. Han Qian smiled, walked down the steps despite the light rain, and took the umbrella from Ji Jing's hand. Ji Jing raised her head and smiled at Han Qian. She walked very slowly, hoping that the warm time would last longer. But this was not what Han Qian meant. He lowered his head and asked softly, "Still hurting?" Ji Jing blushed instantly, raised her head and glared at Han Qian with her mouth bulging, stuffed the thermos bucket into Han Qian's arms, and whispered, "Remember to eat, don't let it cool." After saying this, he took the umbrella from Han Qian's hand and said again, "I don't feel any pain." Ji Jing trotted up the steps, leaving Han Qian standing alone in the drizzle, looking at Ji Jing's back and smiling innocently. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, A Huan. Chapter 610. Having learned from the past, this dumpling must not be eaten in the general department. These guys are like robbers. Why do you say this is also called a love breakfast? Carrying the thermos bucket, I pushed open the door of the general manager's office. Before I could walk in, Yan Qingqing's voice came. "Han Qian, you are finally here." The sound was coming, and the fragrance was blowing. Yan Qingqing took the thermos bucket from Han Qian's hand and pulled Han Qian to the desk. She pressed Han Qian on the chair and pointed at the computer, saying softly, "This is the information sent to us by the Yeomanman. Regarding the meeting in the next few days, the bidding company is required to send a team to attend the meeting and propose a plan for the joint development of tourism between the mountain and the seaside." Han Qian glanced at the computer and opened the thermos bucket. The aroma of dumplings hit his face. Han Qian sniffed, took out a small vinegar bottle inside and poured it on the dumplings, smiling. "Then prepare a team. Generally, you can make money from any business at the Yamen gate. Let the people below do the planning. What do you have to worry about? Eat a dumpling? Ji Jing made it?" Yan Qingqing sighed and reached out to grab the dumplings. She was slapped and a dumpling held between chopsticks was stuffed into her mouth. "Feed the Yasha Empress with Aunt Ji's dumplings. You can't let her watch, right? It's difficult to keep a bowl of water level, so just try your best." Yan Qingqing mumbled while eating dumplings. "Look at the computer files. What the Yeomanman said is that we must go to the companies we named, and we must come up with reasonable plans, and finally select a promising one to make changes. I want you to help me. I don't have time. I'm eating dumplings. If you ask Lu Guangming about this, just say that I asked you to ask him. I chatted with him and I'm too lazy to repeat it. Are you eating dumplings?" Yan Qingqing shook her head and whispered. "You told Lu Guangming and you didn't tell me. If you don't love me anymore, then I'm going to have a different relationship." Han Qian raised his head and said in surprise, "Real? Yan Qingqing was furious. Why are you so excited? Aren't I joking with you? I told Lu Guangming about this. After he goes back, he will definitely let the people in Shuncheng refine it and even make renderings. The tourism industry will not only develop the entire back mountain, and the seaside may even be connected with Bingxian County to drive the economy of Bingxian County. It is impossible for the government office to give this cake to only one person to taste. Besides, it is not you who go to Shuncheng. You let the business department or public relations. Wouldn't it be great if Sun Ya from the ministry went? Han Qian. Yan Qingqing started acting coquettishly again. Han Qian put down his chopsticks helplessly, turned around and smiled helplessly. What happened again? If you don't go to the party, I won't go either. The world without you is so lonely, but if I don't go, I don't know who to let go. Lu Shenga has proposed several times to change the board of directors not to interfere in the company's operations. If I don't go, he will. What should I do if I seize the opportunity? Seeing Yan Qingqing's desperate look, Han Qian smiled helplessly again. His smile and good temper were all given to the women around him. After finishing the dumplings, Han Qian stood up and patted his belly. If you don't want to go, don't go. I'll go find Gao Fuxing and ask him to go. Yan Qingqing stopped being a monster, blinked at Han Qian with her big eyes, and said seriously. Can it be done? Yes, don't cut your hair next time. You looked good when you had red hair, but you don't look good now. I'll leave it to you to go to the party, and I'll do my hair. That's it? Yan Qingqing has become a little warmer, and she has begun to learn to be lazy. Thinking about it carefully, it is normal. There is nothing wrong with Han Qian beside her. Women always like to act coquettishly. Han Qian left the office and took a bottle of yogurt from Yang Jia's desk. He didn't know where this little gossip went to take a break. After walking out of the elevator, his smartphone rang. After taking a look at the number on it, Han Qian frowned and answered the call. Don't hang around like a ghost. Last time we made an appointment at 3 o'clock and you didn't go. Then came the yelling on the phone. What the hell am I going to do to you? You brought dozens of people from the government office to arrest me. Han Qian, do you want to die? It's Feng Lun. Han Qian frowned and said coldly. Did I give you face? You are scolding me, don't force me to fall out with you. I told you that my mobile phone was monitored, but you still called that number like an idiot. Do you blame me? I don't care about this with you. Wu Qingxi wants to film, right? Okay, give me 4 million, and I can film whatever I want. Not a cent. Does our filming have anything to do with you? Don't think I owe you anything. Who killed Feng's Haida? You. Feng Lun? It's me, Han Qian. Just wait, I'll ask Kui Li to talk to Wu Qingxi. If Kui Li comes to Binhai City, I dare to kill him. Do. The phone was hung up, and Han Qian curled his lips and sneered, afraid of you? I was afraid that you would not shoot you in the first place. What the hell do you really think I owe you? Han Qian didn't take Feng Lun's words to heart. The most taboo thing about being involved with someone like Feng Lun is to be afraid of him. The more you are afraid of him, the more he will take advantage of him. The officials who were threatened by him at the Yamen gate are examples. What you think is a concession will make him move forward blindly. On the contrary, the less you are afraid of him, the less likely he is to pull off any tricks. Let Kui Li come. Haha, do you dare to go back to Binhai City? After lighting a cigarette after dinner, he walked unscrupulously in the non-smoking corridor, opened the door of the vice president's office. Han Qian tilted his head and looked helplessly at the two nervous people, and sighed softly. You two like the atmosphere of the office so much. Vice President Gao, I have something to ask you. Gao Xingcheng adjusted his suit, but there was no embarrassment on his face. He frowned slightly and asked. Can you please knock on the door next time you come in? I forgot, next time I knock on the door, do you know about the bidding meeting at the Yamen door? I discussed it with Mr. Yan and thought about letting you bring a team to attend the party. Planning the project we will prepare while we do it, and leave the rest to you. Do you have the interest and time? Huh? Gao Jishi was a little confused. Yan Qingqing usually made the decision on this kind of thing. Ever since he got the shares, he, the vice president, had been almost ignored. How could he be so kind this time? Facing Han Qian, Gao Jingcheng had to be on guard, leaning forward slightly and frowning. Shall I go? Han Qian, are you sure you didn't plot against me? Now you make it impossible for me to believe that such a good thing will happen to me. Seeing Gao Jingcheng's cautious look, Han Qian smiled. Don't worry, I'm definitely not digging a hole for you. You can make bold decisions. You are not responsible for success or failure. But I want to force two people in, Yao Shui and Shan Shan from the general department. You have to give me an answer today. This matter is rather urgent. If you don't go, I will have to think of other ways. Gao Xingchen was a little moved and said again. You really don't want to go? I won't go. I had troubles at 3 parties one after another. Well, you can give me an answer before noon. Okay. Gao Fuling agreed happily, and he didn't know whether he agreed to go to the party or promised to give an answer at noon. Han Qian left in no hurry and sat on the sofa scrolling through his phone. Gao Fuling ignored Han Qian and asked Sun Ya to send the documents and get the computer and start working. After about 10 minutes, Han Qian put down his phone and slapped his forehead. Oops, I almost forgot something. Sister Yaya has something to tell you. Shun Cheng has plans for this development project. I want you to go and negotiate with them. Directly if you go to Lu Guangming, just say I asked you to go, he should understand. Sun Ya nodded with a smile and said softly. I'm going to Shuncheng right now, while you two chat. The woman seemed to have wanted to leave a long time ago, and left the office after she finished speaking. After she left, Gao Xingcheng raised his head, looked at Han Qian, and smiled. Someone asked me to ask you what's going on with Luo Shen. I guess he's already confused. He wants to ask you, but he's afraid you'll talk a lot of nonsense. Han Qian leaned on the sofa and curled his lips, saying disdainfully. He is just too suspicious. He always feels that everyone is plotting against him. If he had a broader mind, it wouldn't be as difficult as it is now. Let me tell you the truth. Luo Shen wants to win over me to cooperate. As for what you say to him, it's up to you. Gao Xingchen nodded slightly and said seriously. Then what do you think? If you cooperate with Luo Shen, your strength will be doubled. The merchants in the capital are much stronger than our Binhai city. Han Qian smiled and waved his hand. It's not bad. Businessmen from the capital can't get a foothold in Binhai city. We can't get a foothold in the capital. No one is much stronger than the other. At most, there is a slight gap in funds. I'm a little confused about Luoshan. I'm worried that this bitch is playing tricks on me. After saying this, Gao Xingyun burst into laughter. You two have this day. Let's tell the truth. Why did you suddenly want me to represent Glory in the Yamen Gate bid? Do you still need to ask? First of all, Lu Shenga may push Tang Wei and his assistant to take over recently. The company will not have 2 general managers, but it may have 2 vice presidents. As a not so strong ally, the 2 of us, I'll try to make it stronger. For this reason, don't think too much, it won't be of any benefit to me to trick you. In fact, Han Qian had another plan in his heart, which was also a temporary idea. Lu Shenga has always wanted to get involved in the company, but was opposed by the other 3 shareholders. It was his plan at the beginning, and it is difficult to change it directly now. Gao Fulai has never done anything detrimental to Lu Shenga, but he has not let Shenga had a great time. Originally, it was because of the 1% chair that made him feel uncomfortable. If Yan Qingqing doesn't go this time, Shenga will definitely take Tang Wei there. Then there will be a reason for Tang Wei to continue to be in charge. Moreover, now that Tang Wei is in the planning department, can Han Qian give him a chance to do planning? But Yan Qingqing didn't go, and Gao Fulai went to the bidding meeting on behalf of Glory. What would that make Shenga think? Yan Qingqing had already given up. Gao Fulai, the brother-in-law, suddenly stepped in and kicked Shenga, who thought he had a chance. Got out. Can Shenga feel comfortable? He has a suspicious character, how can he not suspect that Gao Jingxing did it on purpose? As long as the connection between Shenga and Gao Fulai becomes deeper and deeper, it will be more beneficial to Han Qian. Moreover, Shenga is now promoting Tang Wei and has ignored Gao Fulai. And there is another point, Gao Xing is willing to be a vice president who is full but not hungry? This is a powerful relationship that Han Qian figured out between eating dumplings in the morning and walking into the door of the vice president's office. High fulfillment fit. He is the most suitable to make Shenga uncomfortable. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 611. At noon, he wanted to ask Aunt Ji to go to the cafeteria to have dinner together, but Ji Jing's personality didn't like to go to crowded places. Han Qian simply accompanied Ji Jing to rest in the office. Ji Jing's lunch was very simple, a bottle of yogurt and 2 French biscuits. Bread. Han Qian could eat more than 20 pieces of bread in one sitting, and he didn't know if Ji Jing could eat enough. Han Qian was very serious about living and hygiene, but he seemed to pay less attention to eating and sleeping. When he was busy, he would not sleep at all. He would not starve to death even if he skipped a meal. He lay on the sofa in Ji Jing's office with an unlit glass in his mouth. Smoke and think about life. I told Ji Jing everything about Luo Shen and Lin Zongheng. I originally wanted to hear some advice, but unfortunately I couldn't. Aunt Ji tilted her head and thought about it, then whispered 2 words. I don't understand. Han Qian sat up and grinned at Ji Jing. He stopped worrying about the matter and asked Aunt Ji softly if there was any place she wanted to travel. Ji Jing shook her head again. I don't have anywhere I want to go. I'm relatively lazy. Shopping is my only exercise. I prefer lying at home than traveling. Then let's go home and lie down. Han Qian had a smirk on his face. Ji Jing glared at Han Qian angrily and whispered with a blush. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. I didn't think about it. Did you? Ah. Great nephew. Ji Jing stood up and walked to the edge of the sofa. She took Han Qian's hand and pushed him out of the door. I already have procrastination, and I have no intention of working while you are here. Be good. Go and play by yourself for a while, and don't make any trouble. When she pushed Han Qian out of the door, she gave him a piece of toffee. Then Ji Jing closed the door with a bang. She leaned against the door with her face flushed. Han Qian stuffed the toffee into his mouth and walked out with a smile. As soon as he walked out, he saw little Yang Jia came jumping up and down. Brother Qian, why are you smiling so meanly? Han Qian immediately put away his smile and said angrily. Get out. You're the one who's cheap. Go away, did you steal my yogurt, you robber? Your sister asked me to get it? I asked my sister to go. This kid is so easy to fool, he fooled him just by saying a few words, but as soon as Han Qian turned around, little Yang Jia kicked Han Qian's butt hard, and then ran away. Han Qian gritted his teeth and figured out how to make little Yang Jia being taught a lesson by Yang Lan. Within 10 minutes, Han Qian forgot about this matter. He wandered up and down the company floors, unable to find anything to do. While Yan Qingqing was not in the company and no one was around, Han Qian with the General Affairs Department pulled Qianwan and Suliang to start the game. While playing, he got on top and yelled enthusiastically with headphones on. Lu Zhuolong stood behind the three of them, holding a coffee cup and watching with gusto. He had no intention of stopping them. After half an hour of noisy play, Yang Lan couldn't help but carry he dragged the culprit out of the general department by the ear and told him to go wherever he wanted, making the general department look like a vegetable market. Han Qian, who was bored, really didn't know where he was, so he accidentally took out his mobile phone and called Qian Ling. "Auntie, what are you doing? I'll go over and chat with you. I am no longer been high." "Oh." Han Qian was slightly disappointed and hung up the phone. After struggling for a while, he went downstairs and drove to Changxiang to find Nuan to get his motorcycle, and then went to Guandata to play, also preparing to take a day off for himself. When they arrived at Changxiang, they thought about asking Nuan to tell the secretary to send the keys down. After making a call, Nuan told Han Qian to go up and get them while the secretary was out and busy. "My uncle is here again. Han Qian's information has been picked up by Changxiang's people. He is the guy who was arrested for embezzling public funds in the company 3 years ago. As for how he became Vice President Wen's husband, no one knows." Going upstairs and pushing away the warm office workers, Han Qian turned around and left in the next second. A meeting of carrots or a gathering of heroes. Except for Aunt Ji, several girls were sitting in the warm office. Yan Qingqing, who had dyed her silver hair again, was sitting on the sofa looking at Erlang's legs. Tongya was sitting on the warm desk tinkering with the computer. When Cai Qinghu saw Han Qian, he narrowed his eyes and said softly, "Ms. Sir, why are you going in such a hurry? Don't you have the key? I'll teach you how to ride a motorcycle." The key to the motorcycle was at Cai Qinghu's fingertips. Han Qian walked into the office helplessly, picked up a warm water glass and drank a glass of water, saying softly, "Why are you all here? Give me the key, I want to go out and play." "Play." As soon as this word came out, Han Qian found that the eyes of several girls brightened up. The first one who was discouraged was Wen Nuan, who sighed faintly. "I also want to go out and take pills, but I can't leave now." "Go and have fun by yourself and don't disturb our meeting." Han Qian took the key from Cai Qinghu's hand and smiled. "What kind of meeting are you holding? Discussing whether to eat fish and shrimp for dinner or to retire and raise cattle and sheep?" Nuan glared at Han Qian and replied angrily, "I support you. This is annoying, go away, don't be an eyesore to this person." The warmth has kept people away for the past 2 days, which made Han Qian a little curious. He walked behind Tanjeo with a water glass. He originally thought she was doing something serious, but he didn't expect that she was playing Plants vs. Zombies here. He stretched out his hand and gently knocked Nursery Rhyme lightly on the head. "Why do you have so many sunflowers?" Tongyao turned around and glared at Han Qian, with murderous intent in her eyes, and said fiercely, "I want you to take care of it." Han Qian frowned and smiled bitterly. "Why are you like a bomb? Whoever touches it will explode." Nursery Rhyme said angrily. "Who touched me? Who did I blow?" There is something in the words. This monster completely forgot about the first time he drugged Han Qian. He only remembered the second time Han Qian was drugged by someone else. Han Qian was busy avoiding this explosive monster and faced it. Wu Qingxi, who was doing Yushisi's nails, said softly, "You should be careful these days. You may offend Feng Lun when you film this drama. When the time comes, he will ask Kui Li to come to you and you will be in trouble. You'd better pack up and return to the capital." Wu Qingxi shook her head at Han Qian. "If I don't go back, the film in the capital is now on hold. Whether we can continue filming is still a question. I have to finalize this matter first." I have spoken with the Yamanman and we are planning to film the film in Binhai City. Come as soon as Kui Li comes. Xiao Huhu and I live together, and I brought 2 bodyguards with me, don't worry. After finishing his words, Cai King Hu continued. My lord, please don't rush the little radish. Kui Li is here just in time. If you catch him, you can still make great achievements. Han Qian glared at Cai King Hu, who stuck out his tongue. Han Qian was no longer in the mood to go out and play, so he sat on the sofa and frowned. King Hu, I remember I told you that when you encounter people like Go De Peo and Feng Lun, don't think about catching them. You have to think about running away first. These are all desperados. It's not a loss to kill one, but kill 2. People who make money with blood, why are you fighting with them? I feel relieved if you are honest, by the way. Let me ask you something, who is going to the party and who is not? I know that Mr. Yan and Teacher Tong are not going, and others, where are the people? As the words fell, nursery rhymes began. Who said I won't go? I'm going. Han Qian curled his lips and said disdainfully. Let's play in the mud. He glanced at the girls in the office before speaking again. Warmth, poetry, King Hu, Kingxi, you 4 must participate, right? If Yates also goes, I guess Tu Xiao will also come and join in the fun. When the time comes, you will be together. I feel relieved. I guess there won't be any danger if I don't go to the party. Tu Xiao will definitely take Guan Yun Biao and his younger brothers to this bidding meeting. Han Qian still trusts Tu Xiao very much. Those guys are targeting him and they should not keep an eye on the people at the party. Probably not. When Nuan looked at Han Qian with a smile, narrowed his eyes and smiled. Why are you so superstitious after going to the temple once? Why don't you go find that old Taoist priest to do the calculations? I think his calculations are quite accurate. Mentioning this old Taoist priest, several girls became interested, especially you poems and nursery rhymes. Last time Nuan and Han Qian went to the temple, I took a short video to show them. The details are not yet known. Several women were chattering about the last time Han Qian was almost bitten by a dog. They didn't take Feng Lun or Kui Li's matter to heart. Binhai City is now heavily guarded. If they weren't stupid, they wouldn't come from throw yourself into a trap. Han Qian thought for a while and interrupted the chat of several people. In the future, when you meet Luo Shen, you should hide away. Try not to appear in the same situation. If you have to, try to stay away. I can't explain it to you. It's just for your own good. This time, Tong Yao did not contradict Han Qian, and was the first to say okay. There was nothing wrong with staying here, so Han Qian glanced at Tian'er outside the window. It seems like it's going to rain again. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, A Huan. Chapter 612. It had been a week since the last rainy day, and Han Qian had spent a week in a state of confusion. Today, Lin Zongheng suddenly invited Han Qian and Lu Shenga to meet at Changxiang Golf Course. The sun was blazing and the temperature was over 30 degrees. Lying on the ground, you can clearly see the heat distorting the air, like blue waves in the water. Lin Zongheng told Han Qian on the phone that it would be best to bring a female companion. If not, he would arrange it. Han Qian did not want Lin Zongheng to find an opportunity. Now he was also taboo about having more women around him. Han Qian made several calls, but no one when talking about things. She just asked if she had time, but it turned out that everyone was busy. Even Ji Jing told Han Qian to play by herself and be good. She really couldn't leave the company today. When she was finally debating whether to take Qianwan there to play, Wu Qingxi called and asked Han Qian if there was any place he could take her to play. King Hu went back to the province for a meeting, and she was bored. In fact, Han Qian wanted to call Yates over, but then he thought that bringing Yates around in front of Lu Shenga might bring danger to Yates, So he bit the bullet and agreed to Wu Qingxi and asked her if she knew how to play golf. Wu Qingxi readily agreed and told Han Qian not to drive. She would drive to pick him up. Sitting in the bright red Ferrari, Han Qian took out his cigarette but was snatched away by Wu Qingxi, and told Han Qian that this was King Hu's instructions to him, and he only had one cigarette for 2 hours. Han Qian frowned and looked at Wu Qingxi. "Are you my girlfriend or my wife? What do you care about me?" Wu Qingxi turned her head and narrowed her eyes and smiled. "On the internet, you are my rumored boyfriend, Han Qian. How about we try? I'm very curious why they like you so much." "No. You look like a young woman, and I'm not in shape." Squeak. The Ferrari stopped suddenly on the road. Wu Qingxi unbuckled her seat belt and rushed towards Han Qian. Han Qian opened the door and got out of the car. Wu Qingxi said angrily, "Sister, this is called maturity. Young woman, are you your sister? Come in, or I will get out of the car and beat you." Wu Qingxi's beating you had almost the same meaning as what Wen Nuan said about beating you, both of which Han Qian couldn't resist. After getting in the car again, Han Qian remained silent. No matter how Wu Qingxi spoke, Han Qian remained silent. All the way to the golf course outside the suburbs, Wu Qingxi patted the passenger's hand button when she got out of the car. Han Qian opened it and took a look, then frowned and said in a deep voice, "Why is this thing here?" Wu Qingxi said lightly, "I asked King Hu if I could come out to play with you. She said that it's okay, but you have to take this guy with you. We are both prey now, and safety comes first." Han Qian took out this dangerous thing from his clasp, thought about it, put it back, and said with a smile, "The prey you are talking about is yourself. I am not the prey, I am the hunter." Wu Qingxi turned around with contempt on her face. "Scumbag, you want to hunt me? Piss off." In the midst of scolding full of disgust, Han Qian got out of the car and looked at the luxury cars parked in the parking lot. Fortunately, Han Qian's $1 million Panamera hadn't driven over. It was a bit shabby. Wu Qingxi got out of the car. Han Qian is paying attention to the celebrity's dress. A cool vest, sports shorts, and a pair of sports brand shoes. The moment Wu Qingxi stretched, Han Qian saw the vest line on her lower abdomen. This woman's sudden burst of strength should be able to hammer a sheep to death. The one-punch kind. Walking side by side to the infield with Wu Qingxi whispered that she didn't expect such a high-end place in a small city like Binhai. After all, this is the city where Han Qian grew up. Being ridiculed by Wu Qingxi, Han Qian was unhappy and retorted in a low voice, "Are you ignorant? Binhai City is nicknamed Little Shengjing. The buildings here seem to be short and the cars are shabby. The entertainment venues are no worse than other cities. The citizens of Binhai City are more respectable. If they don't check the bank card balance, they spend the money is like a millionaire. Just don't compare it to the capital city. The Magic City. Did I dig a humming hole for you to bury? Annoying. So infuriating. How many cities in China can compare with Beijing and Shanghai? One hand is enough to count." Wu Qingxi slapped Han Qian's butt. Han Qian quickly jumped out, turned his head to look around, and whispered angrily, "Aren't you afraid of being photographed secretly? Why are you filming my butt when you have nothing to do? Did you dig a hole and bury it to see if you could resist the fall? No one has ever talked to me like this since I was a kid. Dude, this is making up for your less than perfect childhood. Make it up to your sister. You want me to take a picture too? My childhood wasn't complete either. Didn't the dog in the temple make up for it for you? Han Qian, you were bitten by a dog when you were a child, so you didn't get the rabies vaccine, right?" Wu Qingxi's mouth was as bad as Luo Shen's. Han Qian was too lazy to communicate with her. When he walked through the inner door, the greeters and security guards at the door bent slightly and shouted in unison, "Welcome Mr. Han. For Wu Qingxi, a popular star, they chose to ignore it. Han Qian was a little carried away. When he walked, he felt that his steps became lighter. Wu Qingxi looked at Han Qian's triumphant look with disdain, but then she sighed silently. Take a breath. In certain places, there is indeed no sense of presence. Be it Han Qian or Lin Zongheng, their assets are countless times more than Wu Qingxi. Compared with capitalists, stars are just tools. She has seen too many peers being slapped for saying the wrong thing at dinner parties, and has also heard of being banned for not agreeing to the requests of certain bosses. Wu Qingxi once experienced it. Someone asked her to sleep with him. The endorsements could make her a lot of money, but Wu Qingxi refused. The boss said that no one would invest in her dramas in the future, and she would not receive any endorsements. But they don't know that behind Wu Qingxi's stubbornness is a best friend who spends money without blinking an eye. If you don't vote, I, Cai Qinghu, will spend money on my best friend. What will happen if I don't do the endorsement? Can you still starve to death? Therefore, Wu Qingxi is well known, but she is not rich. It can only be said that she is not short of money. But Wu Qingxi knew that the investment was her best friend's money. After getting used to it, she also received invitations for several movies, but the prices she offered were not high, and most of the money she earned was returned to Qinghu. Cai Qinghu does not need any advertising placement. Although Wu Qingxi helps Cai Qinghu to attract advertisers and negotiate prices, it can only guarantee that he will not owe money or lose less. If he likes acting, it does not mean he likes making money. The reason is simple. So after Wu Qingxi became famous, she terminated her contract with the company and established a small studio. Han Qian looked down at the big star and said softly, "Are you feeling inferior because I didn't say hello to you?" Wu Qingxi nodded, originally thinking that Han Qian would comfort her, but unfortunately Han Qian did not. Then you should humble yourself for a while. Wu Qingxi raised her head and frowned. Are you also so straight towards Qinghu? How is it possible? I am calling Qinghu your wife. Scumbag. You want me to be a scumbag, but I won't scumbag you yet. Ha, I've known Qinghu for so long, and Qinghu is still a pretty girl. Han Qian, you want to slander me, but your body won't allow it. Impotence really can't be cured, and even dogs won't like you. While they were bickering, the two of them had already arrived in the lounge of the stadium. Next to Lushenga was the female assistant whose name she still didn't know. When she looked at Han Qian, her eyes were filled with anger. Lin Zongheng stood up and clapped his hands, sighing. Mad dog, you really surprised me. The popular star Wu was also seduced by you. I really need to learn from you. Han Qian chuckled. First think about how to turn over. Did you really finish first that year? Is the rabbit's leg lame? Puff. Wu Qingxi couldn't hold it back and covered her mouth and laughed. Lin Zongheng was not angry and lightly touched the face of the girl next to her. The girl got up to prepare clubs and other items. Han Qian looked at the girl's leaving figure. Said softly. Compared to Luo Shen, his temperament is a bit worse. Are you an adult yet? 17 years old. Just the right age. Ah. Han Qian sneered, and Wu Qingxi's eyes showed contempt. Lin Zongheng ignored Han Qian's sarcasm, frowned and looked at Wu Qingxi and said coldly. I know how much I weigh and how much I am smiling. Han Qian immediately fired back. How much do you weigh? After the words fell, Lushenga, who was drinking a drink, continued. That thing only weighs 5 or 6 pounds, but Mr. Lin is from the sea, so it may be a little heavier. Lin Zongheng turned his head and curled his lips, then looked at the female assistant behind him and said in unison with Han Qian. Not as good as Yates. Lushenga's face instantly turned livid, and Han Qian and Lin Zongheng laughed. Compared to being thick-skinned, Lu Shenga was not as thick-skinned as Lin Zongheng and Han Qian. He got angry too easily, and the two of them were also stabbing him with knives. Wound. Since Yates left, Lu Shenga has not found any assistant who can compare with Yates. In the past, when Yates was around, Yates could understand what he wanted and what he wanted to do with just a frown or a look in his eyes. Okay, what do you need? Lu Shenga regretted a little. It was not that he had not contacted Yates in private, but Yates gave him a firm answer. You taught me not to look back at the path I have taken. It will make me lose the courage to move on. I saved a place for you in the car. He gave me a car. This was the last conversation between Lu Shenga and Yates. It started at that time. Lu Shenga knew that Yates would not come back. He also knew that the current assistant was not as good as Yates. He was far behind. Lu Shenga sighed melancholy and said softly, "Why didn't you bring Yates here? Instead, you brought an actor. Do you like it? Xiao Wu has many companies, you can choose as you like." Lin Zongheng and Lu Shenga both looked down upon Wu Qingxi. She was King Hu's friend. Han Qian couldn't let her suffer, so he replied calmly. Yates is raising a baby at home. Puff. Lin Zongheng squirted water on the ground, then raised his head and laughed. This time Lu Shenga also laughed and cursed with a smile. Han Qian, can I draft it? Han Qian curled his lips, picked up the water glass on the table and handed it to Wu Qingxi, saying disdainfully, "Have you forgotten how Luo Shen scolded you when Luo Shen was having dinner in the capital?" As soon as he finished speaking, the 17-year-old girl came back. Lu Shenga turned to Lin Zongheng and whispered softly, "When I saw this stadium, I remembered the time when Han Qian and Luo Shen rented a room at the Hilton. Zongheng, are turtle shells really only green?" After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 613. Chapter 608. Whenever the three of them get together, they either curse or scold each other, which is completely different from what is shown in the TV series. There is no hypocrisy or superficial politeness. The conversation is very straightforward and the curse is very rude. Wu Qingxi had gone to play ball by herself far away. She really couldn't communicate with these two people, although Han Qian had been helping her fight back. Someone started playing ball, and Lin Zongheng also stood up, stretched and yawned. "You want to play lottery? Han Qian, aren't you known as a money-splitting boy? I guess you don't understand the rules of golf. Let's keep it simple. Whoever swings less times will win. 1 million for each person, and the person who wins, how about a nominal donation to the poor households in the city?" After finishing his words, Lu Shenga stood up and smiled. "I'll bet an additional 1 million that I will win, but let's make a deal first. If I win, I will only donate the money to children and the disabled. If a person with hands and feet is poor, it is his own fault and he deserves to die of hunger." Lin Zongheng said contemptuously. "Are you being a little pretentious?" Lu Shenga didn't answer, but Han Qian smiled and nodded. "I think what the eunuch said makes sense. In modern society, as long as the limbs are healthy, no one can starve to death. Construction floor tiles cost more than 200 yuan a day. In Binhai City, 4,000 to 5,000 yuan a month is enough to feed a family." Lin Zongheng raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. Okay, you two are free to do as you like. Even if you throw this money into the sea, I don't care. Since Lu Diaji has spoken, I will add 1 million more. Mad Dog, do you want to add more? Your confidant is quite rich." Han Qian curled his lips and said disdainfully, "Should I ask Cheng Jin to send me 1 million? After saying this, Lu Shenga and Lin Zongheng frowned at the same time, and Lin Zongheng frowned. "Han Qian, can you please stop asking so soon? Why did you get Cheng Jin over for $1 million? If you don't dare to play, we won't play." Mad Dog Han, You are so boring. Now that both of them had spoken, Han Qian sighed helplessly. Okay. Who starts first? The two said in unison. You. It's not surprising that Lin Zongheng and Lu Shenge have a tacit understanding, because they know Han Qian too well. If Han Qian plays, he will definitely be able to come up with the money, but he has to run away halfway, and the two guys want to pay him back. There is really no way. The main thing is that he can really run. There's nothing this dog can't do. Han Qian also knew what the two grandsons were thinking. He had never played golf before. Standing at the starting point, he asked the two of them in a low voice if they could throw it with their hands. Lu Shenge's eyes were full of contempt after what he said. Didn't Yan Qingqing enroll you in a cram school? Han Qian, can you not embarrass Binhai City? This is to let others know that the opponent Lu Shenge, take seriously is a local dog and a bastard. You let where do I put my face? Damn it! Han Qian frowned, looked at Lu Shenge while holding the club, and said coldly. Believe it or not, I will beat you to death with one stroke. Trust, trust, trust. Lu Shenge didn't even bother to argue with this local dog. Three of the most famous young people in the city got together. There were already people who were no longer playing golf and wanted to come over and strike up a conversation. The golf course was already a high-end place, so it was also very suitable here. Talk about business and cooperation. But now they can only watch from the side, not daring to step forward at all. Because Mr. Han is playing ball. The moody Mr. Han appears to be harmless to humans and animals, but when he tries to trick people behind his back, he buries them with dirt. After two missed shots, Han Qian was a little anxious and a little angry. The third time, he simply smashed the ball into the lawn with the ball holder. Lin Zongheng's eyes widened when he saw this, and Lu Shenge did not forget to hit. You look like a... Lin Zongheng turned around and cursed. I've seen people who couldn't hit the ball, I've seen people who bent the pole, but this is the first time I've seen the person who smashed the ball into the lawn. Mad Dog Han, are you a monster? This time it was Lin Zongheng's turn to scold him. Originally, Lin Zongheng invited the two of them over to discuss business, but now they are all thinking about how to play ball. Men may be naive, no matter what kind of man they are. Wu Qingxi was a little frustrated. She stepped forward and stood behind Han Qian and gently held Han Qian's hand holding the club. Waiting for the caddy to place the ball, Wu Qingxi said softly. Don't be too stiff, bend down, lift your hips, measure the distance first, don't worry about where the ball is, and then swing. The ball finally flew out, and Han Qian was sweating profusely. Then when Han Qian was holding the club and going to find the ball, Lin Zongheng spoke. Are you stupid? You have a car. Han Qian carried the club and walked towards Lin Zongheng. The latter quickly took 2 steps back. Han Qian was also stopped by Wu Qingxi, so they couldn't start a fight. The 17-year-old girl brought by Lin Zongheng was a little curious about the identity of this Han Qian. She was not from Binhai City. She had heard her father talk about this Han Qian before, but this was the first time she saw her. A little bit asshole, a little bit earthy, a little bit interesting. After Han Qian got in the car, Lin Zongheng and Lu Shenge sat in a car. Lin Zongheng was driving. Apart from the two of them, there was no third person in the car. Lin Zongheng looked at Han Qingxi, who was taken away by Wu Qingxi. Qian said softly. I have already told Han Qian about this plan. I have already prepared the plan. I will choose to do it when we have a meeting at the Yamen Gate. I don't want you to suddenly rebel at that time and swallow up the Luo family. It will be both for you and me as benefit. Lu Shenge took out a cigarette, lit it, exhaled the smoke and said calmly. The Lin family wants to enter the capital. Don't ask, it has nothing to do with you. You just need to start suppressing the Luo family's business after Luo Shen disappears, and start acquiring shares. I will appear next to Luo Fu as an infatuated seed to serve as an internal response, and Han Qian will be the best at it. Sowing discord or setting a trap. Trap? You and I have to admit that we are not as good as Han Qian in setting traps. From the time I started to get to know Han Qian, I discovered that Han Qian's every word and every move may be a trigger for him to set a trap. This guy is now I also set a trap for you, but I can't see it. I have to admit that if Han Qiansheng is in the merchant, you and I will not be his opponent if we work together. Haha, what I enjoy now is the process, not the result. Are you sure that Luo Shen will definitely disappear? And Han Qian will also take action against the Luo family. Lin Zongheng also took out a cigarette, let go of the steering wheel, lowered his head to light the cigarette, and said softly, "Yes." Han Qian has always suspected that Luo Shen wanted to kill him. Now he has doubts about Luo Shen. As long as Han Qian is near him when danger arises, Luo Shen will confirm his thoughts. I have prepared the plan. Luo Shen he disappeared as a result of his failure to kill Han Qian, and with his mad dog temper and hatred towards Luo Fu, he will not let go of the Luo family. Lu Shenge narrowed his eyes, raised his head to look at Lin Zongheng, and said coldly, "You already had this plan when you asked Luo Fu to blackmail Han Qian for 2 million, right? Han Qian didn't surprise me, but you surprised me. If that's really the case, you are qualified to let I'm serious about you." Lin Zongheng did not admit or reject it, and laughed. "Everyone knows that Han Qian stole my childhood sweetheart, and now he has cuckolded me, but I don't care what others think of me, how they evaluate me, I only want one result, one that is enough to shut up everyone. The result of..." The car stopped by the lake. Lin Zongheng got out of the car and came behind Han Qian, smiling lightly. "What's wrong?" Han Qian turned his head and smiled very kindly at Lin Zongheng. "Master Lin, can you swim?" After saying this, Lin Zongheng turned around and left, and Han Qian shouted hurriedly, "Are you coming back? I can't swim. Go down and fish out the ball for me." Lin Zongheng cursed as he ran. "Mad dog Han, you have definitely been bitten by a humming dog. You are not in your right mind." In the end, the ball was replaced with a new one and placed by the lake, but Han Qian had to add 2 extra strokes to hit the ball into the water. As a result, Han Qian ended his first golf trip with 15 strokes. It was strange. Finally, when the distance to the hole was less than 10 meters, the ball ran around the hole without falling. Han Qian was so angry that he smashed the ball into the soil again. 2 penalty strokes added. Han Qian didn't expect to win anymore. He sat in the car, drank water, and smoked a cigarette, and called Qian Ling on his mobile phone. "Auntie, I have something to do with you. I'm embarrassed to tell Ching Ching, because Ching Ching will scold me." Wu Qingxi was a little surprised by his mean look. When did Han Qian become so good? Qian Ling on the phone laughed after hearing this. "What's wrong? What trouble did you get into again?" "I didn't get into any trouble. I was playing with Bastard Lin and Eunuch Lu on the golf course, and then I lost by accident, and I'm short of money, so I'll give you some money to spend." Han Qian's coquettishness and asking for money did not make Qian Ling feel any disgust. On the contrary, because Han Qian's tone was very happy, she regarded Han Qian as a son. Isn't it right for a son to ask his mother for money? Besides, what's the use of keeping her money? This guy's half-hour planning helped her earn tens of millions. Qian Ling smiled on the phone. "Haha, send the card number to Wan Wan, and I'll ask Wan Wan to transfer it to you." Han Qian was confused again and whispered again. "A bit much." "How much? How much is that?" "Qian, if you are playing outside, I will give you whatever money you have. It won't be many millions or tens of millions." If you don't have any money, just tell me. I will prepare this money for you. And Wan, yes, but you have to listen to your aunt. You can't be in danger. You can't go and fight people like Feng Lun and Go De Peo. Their lives are worthless. Be good. Be obedient and come home when you have time in the evening. I'll make dumplings for you. If you don't have time today, come over tomorrow. I won't ask you how much it is. I'll ask Wan to transfer you 200 first. If it's not enough, call me. Hey. I've prepared a card for you a long time ago, and you won't come over either. Take. Han Qian scratched his head and whispered. Dumplings with apple fillings. Auntie, I want to eat meatballs. Then you want to eat meatballs, come over anytime. It's evening. Bring some girls here. Aunt. Okay, I won't tease you anymore, let's go play. Qian Ling hung up the phone. Wu Qingxi looked sideways at Han Qian and asked curiously. Who is he? He's so kind to you. He almost treats you like his own son. Han Qian, I've never seen you so well behaved, right? Han Qian lowered his head and issued the card number to Qian Wan, and told Yan Qingqing not to tell Yan Qingqing. After sending a text message, Han Qian raised his head and smiled. I have 3 mothers. This is one of them, the one who dotes on me the most. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 614. 3 mothers. No one can measure how good a mother is to her children. It's not enough for Han Qian to have 1, but 3 instead. This is not something to be ashamed of, but rather something to be envied. Wu Qingxi was a little curious and asked in a low voice. Aren't you tired of being 3 mothers? Tired? Han Qian tilted his head and thought for a moment, then nodded with a smile. It is indeed tiring. My biological mother is urging me to have a baby, but my godmother has not urged me, but there are some things I have to do. As for the last mother, well, she is always there when she calls, and I am there. That's fine, I'll take you to meet my 3 mothers if I have the chance. Ha, scumbag. Han Qian ignored Wu Qingxi. The car had already arrived at the starting point, and Lin Zongheng started to serve. As soon as Han Qian got off the car, someone came up to say hello. It could be said that he had never seen him before, and he had never heard of his name. But these guys are either rich or noble. They still have assets worth 18 million yuan, but they don't invite Han Qian here and there. They mostly come over to show their faces and become familiar with them. Because he had stayed at home for 3 years, Han Qian didn't know how to negotiate with these people. He turned his head and glanced at Wu Qingxi standing next to him and sighed. I regret it. Apart from being good looking, you are of no use at all. I might as well bring Yates over. Wu Qingxi stood behind Han Qian and punched him in the lower back, whispering. You took me to play. What do you want me to do? When you talk, you do it? I'm not very good at communicating with people I've never met. I don't know what to say except laughing. What should I do? You're so stupid, a dog can still say a few words when meeting a stranger. Han Qian rolled his eyes and decided not to talk to this woman. She had a bad mouth. He thought about going to Lushenga to find out about her mouth, but he didn't make it through the short 10-meter road. A fat man wearing a white Nike sportswear blocked Han Qian's way, squinting his eyes and smiling like a little Maitreya Buddha. Master Han, let's talk. Here we go again. Han Qian nodded with a smile and said softly. Your name. As soon as she finished speaking, Wu Qingxi stepped on Han Qian's feet. How could she have made such an opening statement? Isn't this a boring conversation? Fortunately, The white Maitreya Buddha didn't mind and said with a smile. My surname is Sunday. I'm a swimwear businessman in Ben County. I didn't expect to meet Mr. Han when I came here today. I'm really lucky. Hey. As soon as Han Qian uttered the word his foot was stepped on again. Wu Qingxi stretched out her hand to hold Han Qian's arm and smiled lightly. Boss son, you are so polite. Han Qian is not a mysterious figure. We are friends when we meet each other. My husband can't stand the word lucky. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. My surname is Wu Qingxi. Brother's son calls me just black hair. Boss son raised his head and smiled naively. It turns out it's really Miss Wu. She looked familiar just now, but she was worried that she would admit her mistake and end up in trouble. It would be disrespectful and disrespectful. Boss son is really polite. Let's sit down and chat slowly. My husband occasionally mentions Ben County's swimsuits. Speaking of this, Wu Qingxi smiled bitterly and said helplessly. The Yamanmen often discuss Binxian County with my husband. I also mentioned a boss named Sun, but I don't know if it's you. Please sit down. Wu Qingxi revealed the relationship between Han Qian and Yamanmen are again, intentionally or unintentionally. This was not to show off, but to tell Sun that respect is not based on words, and don't make any messy ideas. After sitting down, Wu Qingxi poured 2 cups of herbal tea and said softly. Boss Sun, please don't mind that my intermediary has interfered in the conversation between you and my husband. It's just that my husband has been a little angry recently and has a mouth ulcer that makes him afraid to speak. I wonder if you saw the way my husband frowned just now. After explaining, the smile on Sun Minjiao's face became a little stronger. The small teacup was like a toy in his chubby hands, and he chuckled. So that's it? I've heard about Mr. Han's sharp tongue. It turns out that he has a mouth problem. It was Sun who was abrupt. I came here to say hello to Mr. Han shamelessly today just to make him look familiar. I'll go to Ben County to inform him later. Although he said it's a county town, but the hospitality is no worse than Binhai City. Wu Qingxi picked up the teacup and offered tea, smiling. You're welcome. It's my husband who has a mouth problem today. He will definitely go to Ben County to apologize to him in the future. I hope Boss Sun can't pretend not to know him. Han Qian smiled and nodded to Boss Sunday. The latter laughed and said, where did the apology come from? They are buddies after meeting each other. Then Wu Qingxi quietly pointed at Lushenga, and Boss Sun got up and started to talk. He left. Han Qian breathed a sigh of relief. Why do you talk so much to such a person? While talking, Lushenga walked over, looked at Sun Minjiao's leaving figure, and said calmly. Fat Sun is the richest man in Ben County. His swimsuit business is with foreign countries. Hundreds of swimsuit factories in Ben County are eating the grain that leaks from his fingers. Just such a small amount of grain can produce tens of millions. Come on, rich man, and when did you get mouth ulcers? Did you curse? Han Qian frowned and curled his lips, holding the teacup, and said calmly. I'm just too lazy to talk, and I managed to raise a dozen multimillionaires from the cracks in my fingers. Do you think I'm still the same boy as before? Lushenga shook his head and smiled bitterly. Let me tell you something and you will know. There are 3 famous villas in Ben County. The price of one villa is about 8 million. The 3 villas are all small bosses of swimwear factories. Don't underestimate them. Fatty Sun makes more money in a year than Glory, and this guy's business doesn't have much investment. If the 2 of you are close, it will be no problem for you to support this little star. Investing in a movie will be beneficial to Fatty Sunday, it's just a blink of an eye. Wu Qingxi raised her head and glared at Lushenga, who sneered sarcastically. Do you really think you can't be banned? After saying this, Han Qian stood up, glared at Lushenga, and frowned. If you bully Qing Si again, I will go to the capital to find Xiao Wu and extort some endorsements from her. Get in the car, I have something to tell you, and tell your assistant to stay away. Lu Shenge frowned and said coldly. Give Yates back to me, and I'll tell her to get lost. If you don't pay, go and drive. I'm worried that that little bastard will cheat. Then, under the surprised eyes of the assistant, Wu Qingxi, and everyone else, Lu Shenge really went to drive, which surprised them. Everyone admitted that Han Qian was awesome, but when did Lu Shenge become so obedient? This time it was Lu Shenge's turn to drive Han Qian. The two of them sat in the car and smoked cigarettes unscrupulously, regardless of the no-smoking signs. The two of them watched Lin Da Bastard playing ball on the lawn. The clothes were taken off, revealing well-developed muscles, and the clear scar on his back gave this guy a lot of masculinity. Han Qian said softly. It's your masterpiece. It's actually good that he didn't die in the mountains. It would be boring if he died. It would be boring for the two of us to play. Lu Shenge touched his lower back and said softly. I have one too, why don't you want me to live? Why are you jealous, old man? Lu Shenge was speechless after a quarrel. He gritted his teeth and stared at Han Qian for a long time. Unfortunately, his eyes could not kill people. The two drove past Lin Zongheng, and Lin Zongheng shouted to them to have their money ready. If you don't know these three guys, you will definitely think that they are good friends, very good friends. Who knew they both wanted to kill each other? Lu Shenge held the steering wheel with one hand and said calmly. Lin Zongheng told me his plan. You are a pawn in the plan, but you will not die. Luo Shen will definitely die. To you, she is more valuable dead than alive. I want to know about Lin Zongheng and you. What did you say? Han Qian shrugged. I didn't say anything. I just told him that Luo Shen would disappear from this world. We haven't contacted each other since then. I'm very curious. Is it different if Lin Zongheng married Luo Shen? After saying this, Lu Shenge smiled and looked at Lin Zongheng playing in the distance and said with disdain. Luo Shen has to marry him, right? If Luo Shen wanted to marry Lin Zongheng, would she cuckold him with great fanfare? I think Luo Shen's words about cooperating with you are false. She clearly knows what's most important in your heart. It's warmth. Even if you swallow the Lin family, she will be the second target. I see. Luo Shen just wants to use you as a shield, but it can't be too obvious. If the Luo family threatens you, don't go to the Luo family and Luo Shen. Is there no way to inherit the family property? Han Qian lowered his head and lit a cigarette again, raised his head and blew out the smoke, and said calmly. Aren't you tired of so many calculations? What do you think of Luo Shen? Now there are only benefits and no harm to me, so he provokes Lin Zongheng and me? Do we still need to provoke between us? If you want to kill someone, I can't control it. Don't do it. Just kill people in front of me. In fact, I'm not interested in carving up the Luo family or anything like that. It's up to you. Lu Shenge chuckled. What will happen if I take Lin Zongheng's recording to the Yamen gate? It's useless. Luo Shen told me that the Lin family's stable position in the city is largely due to the good relationship between Lin Mend and Niu Qiudong. But I discovered another thing. Lin Zongheng is afraid of me because of the people behind me. Cheng Jin, logically speaking, Niu Qiudong shouldn't be afraid of Cheng Jin. After hearing this, Lu Shenge lowered his head and smiled evilly. Do you think the Prime Minister is afraid of Mr. Bao? As soon as he said this, Han Qian grinned, and the two looked at each other and smiled evilly. Then the car hit the guardrail. Fortunately, the speed was not fast. Lin Zongheng also completed his golf trip at this time, finishing with 9 strokes. It was Lu Shenge's turn. This guy played the ball slowly and leisurely. This time Han Qian and Lin Zongheng did not follow. Lin Da Bastard sat on the chair and wiped the sweat from his body and said calmly. I have made all preparations to start on the day of the party. Han Qian looked calm and said calmly. Is the party confirmed? Lin Zongheng turned to look at Han Qian, narrowed his eyes and smiled. It's confirmed, it's Yates Yezai Pavilion. The Yamanmen were worried that you would suddenly attend the party and be in danger, so they chose your platform. Han Qian, do you think Yates will join forces with Lu Shenge to kill you? Woolen cloth. Oh, who knows? After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, A Huan. Chapter 615. After the ball was played, Lin Zongheng won as expected. Lu Shenge called the person in charge of the city's Love Foundation. Lu Shenge honestly gave 2 million and 1 million to Lin Zongheng. 1 million was donated to the fund. To his surprise, Lin Zongheng did not take away the 1 million, but instead took out another million. Han Qian was willing to admit defeat and called the bank to transfer the money to the foundation. After the money was traded, Lin Zongheng patted the fund manager on the shoulder and smiled. Don't let me know that you've been greedy for money. It won't be as simple as breaking your claws. Besides, as you can see, this money was donated by the three of us in our own name. The people in the capital committee nodded like they were pounding garlic. At this time, Han Qian curled his lips and said, No. You donated the money and it has nothing to do with me at all. Lin Zongheng turned his head and smiled. Aren't we allies? It's noon, why don't we find a place to have a quick meal? None of them had any objections and found a place to eat. At the dinner table, the three men chatted about the company. There was no quarrel or mention of Luo Shen's name. After the meal, Han Qian was the first to leave. Wu Qingxi wanted to leave very early. No matter how much she looked at Lu Shenge, she felt disgusted. To be honest, Han Qian wasn't full either. Wu Qingxi frowned and muttered in the car. Aren't you tired of dealing with these two people? You can't believe a word they say, especially Lu Shenge, who is as mean as a eunuch. I haven't even eaten. Why don't you find a place to eat more? Go to KFC. Han Qian put down his chair, put his slippers on the console, lay down in the car, closed his eyes and said calmly. You can eat whatever you like. It doesn't matter to me. I can't say I'm tired from getting along with them. It's too tiring. I don't dare to relax at all. But if there is no tension and calculation in life, what's the difference between it and the pigs in the pigsty? This will prevent me from being too bored. Once a person is too bored, he may not be able to do anything. Worried about creating a little Han Qian. This time Han Qian didn't curse and nodded with his eyes closed. You're right, I'm really scared. If I live like a pig, I will definitely be anxious to have children, be it a daughter or a son. I will let them complete what his father has not completed in his life. It's a sign of incompetence to impose things on your children that you haven't done yet. Incompetent? I don't know how you define the word incompetent. Does it mean that ancient emperors established princes and educated the princes to be emperors, which is a sign of incompetence? Or that a defeated general should not let his son become a general? This is just a crooked theory created by a group of idle and hungry guys in modern times. The car returned to the entrance of KFC in the city. Wu Qingxi walked into the store with Han Qian wearing sunglasses and a mask. She was not afraid of onlookers at all, and fans in Binhai City almost all knew that she had not left Binhai City, and she was very close to Han Qian in the city. Qian is a friend. Wu Qingxi ordered 2 set meals, chose a remote location to sit down, and ran twice. After sitting down, she didn't feel any discomfort. She took off her mask and sunglasses, picked up the fried chicken, stuffed it into her mouth, and said softly. Han Qian, I found that you are very dissatisfied with this society. Han Qian picked up the burger, took a bite, and said vaguely. No, 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 I'm very satisfied with this society. It's just that what you said just now makes me a little dissatisfied. Are modern parents educating their children? Students can't be beaten or scolded when they go to school. It's such a bad habit to learn. Respect, it's a rule to respect teachers and to teach students to be strict, you see? That child must be 12 or 13 years old, and he still needs to be fed after eating. What can he do? Seeing Han Qian's angry look, Wu Qingxi stretched out her hand and pressed Han Qian's arm, smiling bitterly. Okay, let's see how angry you are. Other people's children belong to other people. When you have children, just educate them well. Mentioning the child, Han Qian had a headache, covered his head and sighed. Child? Who should I have a baby with? When Nuan has a baby with 4 old people as babies. I guess I can't even touch it. Yan Qingqing. She is going to give birth to a baby. Do you believe she can go to heaven? Do you know why I am so busy? It's not really something, but I want to keep myself busy. If I can't control which girl gets pregnant, it's over. The Third World War has started. Compared with watching Wen Nuan and Yan Qingqing quarrel, I even want to say goodbye to Lin Zongheng and Lu Shenga. Ha ha ha. Wu Qing laughed in an unladylike manner. Just as he was about to speak, Han Qian said quickly. Don't say it. I know it's my problem, I didn't handle my feelings well, but Qingxi, tell me, how should I handle it? My mother's life and mine are both given by warmth. There are always people curious about why we got divorced. I still take care of her, don't I owe someone something? I will be in prison for more than 10 years, and a 3-year marriage contract will buy me freedom, and she is very good to my parents, what can I do? After he finished speaking, he just stuffed half of the burger into his mouth, holding the Coke in his left hand, and had already taken the second burger handed over by Wu Qingxi in his right hand, and continued vaguely. Besides Qingqing, let me put it bluntly, without Qingqing, there would be no Han Qian who was complimented on the golf course today. Am I ungrateful? Is that what a man does? Ah! I want to pay 13%. The shares were used as breakup fees. I was thinking that I could compensate them, but unfortunately it didn't work out. What should I do? Besides, Qinghu, you and Qinghu have a good relationship, right? Qinghu and I were just joking in the beginning. What the hell? I kissed someone when I was drunk, and I patted my butt and walked away like it was nothing. After taking a bite of the burger and a sip of Coca-Cola, Wu Qingxi said angrily. Slow down, no one will compete with you. I'm used to it. In the past, Wen Nuan always snatched food from my hand. I wanted to be a scumbag and walk away, but damn, my parents didn't educate me like this since I was a child. Aren't you curious about why I do that? Are we going to fight to the death with Lin Zongheng and Lu Shenga? Can I agree if Lin Zongheng wants to touch Wen Nuan? Lu Shenga killed my godmother's 2 sons, can I let him go? Can I sleep peacefully without moving them? And Feng Lun, ah, damn it, if Wen Nuan and Qingqing were not in the hotel at that time, I don't care whether Feng Lun kills anyone or not. After saying this, Han Qian patted his forehead and said lightly as he looked at Wu Qingxi who had her mouth puffed up. I didn't know you at the time. After I left the golf course today, I realized why I was so tired. I did it myself and no one is to blame. Wu Qingxi did not interrupt Han Qian's nagging. In fact, she didn't ask anything. Instead, she kept holding some words in her heart. Han Qian also felt uncomfortable. What did she say to Guandegu and Sul Yang? I guess the two of them have to say that Han Qiansheng is ignorant of blessings, and how many people publish novels. Han Qian didn't want them to know how dangerous he was in the city, so who else could he talk to? Nobody. If Wu Qingxi is here today, consider her unlucky. After speaking out what was in his heart, Han Qian felt a lot more relaxed and sighed. I have always prevented Nuan from eating this stuff, but suddenly I thought it was quite delicious. I will buy 2 and send them to her later. Wu Qingxi nodded, then whispered seriously. Han Qian, you love warmth, right? Like. Han Qian was confused and then said. What is love? I don't know what love is. I just know that I will do my best to be nice to the person I care about, make her laugh and prevent her from crying. That's what I think. I only have so much ability. I don't have any ink, and I still owe Nuan 4 million, so what's the point of talking about love? That's because you don't want to pay it back. You're worried that you will be embarrassed after paying it back. You don't know how to continue to get along with Wen Nuan. If you want to pay back the money, let alone 4 million, 40 million, or 400 million. King Hu can also get it for you. How much money do my girls have? 400 million should be doubled, maybe more. King Hu doesn't know how much money she has. Her grandfather left her a very special person. King Hu has never met this person or contacted him. He just knows this person. He is still dealing with the remaining balance from his grandfather's sale of the company, which is a lot. This rich woman. Then Wu Qingxi smiled. Actually, you and King Hu are very similar. She didn't want to fall in love before, and she didn't want anyone to pursue her because of money, so she kept herself busy and didn't have time to think about these things. King Hu said that she didn't like you at first, saying that you were like a gangster. She also said later that she liked you for some reason, and then rejected the idea, saying that she didn't like you, but that she was used to having you around. Isn't that what she meant by liking you? Han Qian, King Hu is really true. She likes you very much. If you let her down, I will beat you to death with my own hands. Han Qian sighed, stood up and smiled. You'll never get this chance. But, finding a place to practice? I'll give you a serious shot. In the end, Han Qian was defeated miserably. There were many times when he could defeat Wu Qingxi in an instant, but this moment might also inflict fatal injuries on Wu Qingxi. Han Qian was beaten to pieces, but he still didn't forget to buy a burger to enjoy. The foodie warmly and generously gave a hamburger to Yu Shisai. The two were checking the accounts. Han Qian was lying on the sofa shirtless, and Wu Qingxi was wiping the bruises on his body with safflower oil. Nuan ate vaguely and spoke vaguely. If you have enough inside and enough space to ask for instructions, please give the manuscript to your queen. Han Qian frowned and looked at Wen Nuan. You're talking when you swallow it? Yu Shisai smiled and translated. You can't beat Qingxi, so you have to suffer the consequences. Han Qian, you are indeed a bit mean, or do you really enjoy the feeling of a big star serving you? Han Qian curled his lips and said. Qingxi, please take a rest. Female gangster, please come over and apply medicine for me. I want you to serve me, okay? Haha, no. When I finish my work, I will take good care of you. After saying this, the woman stretched out her tongue and licked the corner of her mouth. Han Qian couldn't help but shudder, and then he felt a little uncomfortable lying on his stomach. What the hell? My concentration is too weak now. After work, Wu Qingxi was invited to have dinner at home by Wen Nuan, and Yu Shisai naturally followed her. The three women went to buy groceries, and Han Qian drove home first. When he walked into the house, Luo Shen called. Husband, will you go to your Binhai City bidding meeting in the next few days? Let's go together. We won't go home at night. I shouldn't go, and I don't, I'm quite busy. I'll talk about it when you get back to Binhai. Han Qian felt uncomfortable after hanging up the phone. Did he really let his life disappear like that? Then Han Qian's phone rang again, and he forgot about Qianling making dumplings.